Yes, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman, Alfred.
I'm Batman.
I am Batman.
I'm Batman. I'm Batman.
Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Please visit our website, holybatcast.com. It's your one-stop shopping for everything about the show. But don't worry, we're everywhere. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast and you will find us. You can also find us on Patreon. So if you're a fan of the show, would like to help support the show, become a more permanent member of the Bat Family, you go to patreon.com/holybatcast and see what the rewards are, see what you're willing to do. Of course, you don't have to do any of it, but we love you if you do. So check that out if you feel so inclined. And so I do have to give a quick shout out to patron Mark Wilson. So Mark, thank you so much. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to go to Patreon and help us out. We couldn't do it without you guys. So big shout out to Mark Wilson and big shout out and love to all of our patrons. You guys are the best. We are part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so if you want to check out all those shows, you can do that at rf4rm.com. Go sample the buffet of Real Fans shows as you like. And as always, I'm your host, Andy DiGenova. Hello. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, it's just my name, Andy DiGenova. But yeah, there you go. Now that all that business is out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to discuss this week. We pulled a random animated film out of the old mothballs, and we're going to review Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. Then we're going to review the next episode of Batman the Animated Series and wrap up, as we always do, with the Wayne Manor Mailbox. Joining me is not my normal partner in crime. He's got the week off. He's been doing such a good job, I decided to give him a couple vacation days, and so Jamie is off doing whatever the hell Jamie does. I don't know, drinking lots of beers amongst the corn, I think. So I've got my regular fill-in. It is our very own Bush baby, straight from the Outback. It's our Bat brother from Down Under. It's Brendan Lowe. Hey, Brendan.
Hey, how you doing? Bush
Good.
baby.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm still laughing about that last week. I'm just glad, honestly, that this week I didn't have, emu races, kangaroo jumping competitions, boomerang throwing contests, whatever other Australian stereotype there is for me not be able to join.
I know,
I'm glad that I could settle that aside this week.
I'm glad you didn't schedule any of those things this week.
and what Jamie's doing too, I don't think it'd be beer. I think, isn't pumpkin spice back?
Oh, that's right.
He's
that
probably in a
true.
pumpkin spice induced coma somewhere.
Yeah, we're recording on September 1st, and I might have started my day with a pumpkin spice latte. And yeah, I think Jamie's probably having pumpkin spice beers.
That's probably right.
We do have those.
I'm sure. Mate, I'm just from the stuff I've seen in the last 4 or 5 days leading up to the start of September for you guys, the amount of pumpkin spice things that I'm seeing. Well, I know we've had this conversation before, around 12 months ago, but the whole pumpkin, it's not a thing here. It really isn't. Pumpkin is a vegetable that you put in soups and eat with, meat or whatever. It's not a dessert thing.
Well, you are missing out. When you are here next year, I'm going to take you out for all the pumpkins. We're going to have pumpkin beers, pumpkin coffees, pumpkin pies.
It's probably all the stuff that I can't eat with my bloody IBS, but anyway.
Probably. Pumpkin spice Cheerios.
Okay.
They're surprisingly not bad.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, you should. So yeah, it is that season. So I think that is what happened to Jamie. He's in a pumpkin spice coma, and we hope that he recovers.
Well, I have a feeling it might be at least 2 weeks before he's back to normal.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It's all good. So anyway, thanks for filling in.
Anytime, you know that.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, first little disclaimer before we move forward. So our last episode, me and Jamie, we just shot the shit. We talked about stuff. And one of those things that we talked about was Alec Baldwin was going to be in the Joker movie. And then I posted the episode.
How'd that work out?
And 12 hours later, all of a sudden, oh no, never mind. He's not in the movie anymore. The heck was that?
because when the news broke, because I knew you and I were recording this weekend, and I didn't realize you and Jamie were going to record late. I was like, oh, we can talk about Alec Baldwin in the episode. And you're like, oh, what's happened? And I gave you the link, and you're like, oh, wow. And then that episode came out on the same morning over here that the news broke that he wasn't in it anymore. And I think I messaged you, and I'm like, well, we can still talk about Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Very, very strange. But after hearing, the news that he's out, it kind of sounds like he was never in. Because it was never officially reported.
Right. So I wonder if he was in talks and someone jumped the gun.
Possibly.
Yeah, that was weird. But they're weeks away from shooting that movie, so it's going to be interesting. I think Alec Baldwin would have been great, but hey,
I thought so too. I thought it was great casting. But didn't the story, when the story about him not playing it broke, didn't they also quash the rumor that it was meant to be some, 80s smarmy Trump-like character as well?
Yeah, because that was the rumor, and then I guess when they said, oh, he's no longer in the movie, and that was never the case. So who knows? Yeah,
because I was always when that news originally broke that he was going to be cast, or he was cast, I was keen for it. I thought it was inspired casting. I thought it was great casting. I would love to see Alec Baldwin play that role. And like you mentioned too, pretty much the first thing I thought of was he was a front runner back in 87, 88, for Batman 89. So it would kind of be cool to see him then play Bruce Wayne's father. Mm-hmm. When this movie comes out, it'd be 30 years later, which I thought would be really, really quite fitting actually. But so I'm interested in seeing him play the role. I wasn't interested in the description of the role. So
yeah, I don't know if anyone was into that description. I think everybody was kind of like, wait, what? Yeah, what are you doing?
Baldwin's not doing it, but I'm happy that it doesn't seem to be what we were led to believe that it was.
Right. And Alec Baldwin kind of sort of played Bruce Wayne in The Shadow.
Yeah.
Not far off.
No. Sort of gets forgotten, that movie, doesn't it?
Yeah, I kind of like that movie.
It's not too bad.
I have a soft spot for those attempts.
The Phantom myself, but The Shadow's definitely, it's not bad.
I think The Phantom was better than The Shadow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a sucker for when they tried to revive all those pulp heroes in the 90s. Rocketeer, obviously, my favorite. But I like The Shadow. I like The Phantom for what they are.
And once again, all because of Batman.
Yeah. So, anyway, who knows? We'll see who plays Thomas Wayne, but it is interesting that Thomas Wayne and Wayne Manor will be in this Joker movie. So, you and I think, are very much on the same page. We feel like, I don't know what this is going to be, but it'll be interesting.
I mean, look, I'm hoping that with Alec dropping out, they give Stephen a call.
Stephen Baldwin?
Yeah, get Stephen in there. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, he was the perfect Barney Rubble.
He was a hell of a Barney Rubble.
I knew you'd love that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to the topic at hand. So when we knew that we were going to have to do this without the big guy, I was like, what should we talk about? And you threw out a couple animated movies. And this one, I was like, yeah, I guess we've never talked about that because this movie came out before there was a Holy BatCast, and it was just random enough to pique my interest. So yeah, we're going to take a look back. This one came out in 2009. I can't believe it was that long ago, but came out in 2009, and that is Superman, Batman, Public Enemies. So again, this was one of those DC animated films, that we continue to get. This one came out in 2009. And this one, we've got some very familiar voices. So Clancy Brown is back as Lex Luthor, Kevin Conroy is back as Batman, and Tim Daly is back as Superman. So they went to the old Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and Justice League cast to bring this one to life. A couple other members of the DC family showed up as well. Allison Mack, who has had a very interesting year.
She has.
Back in 2009, little did we know, but she's Power Girl in this. John C. McGinley is Metallo. CCH Pounder is Amanda Waller. She did Amanda Waller on Justice League as well. So, this was one of the first, or not first, but it was early on.
It was
in these
early,
DC animated movies. Yeah. Based on the comic by Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness. And so let's start spoiler-free, just overall thoughts on Public Enemies, and then we'll get into the thick of it. So, Brendan, first of all, why'd you suggest this one? What made this one jump to mind?
Well, I won't bury the lead. It's one that I like. I like it quite a bit. I really enjoy this one. It's good fun. But I don't know, just because we were thinking, like, what the hell are we going to talk about? And I walked over to the shelf with all my animated movies on it. I'm just like, are there any of these that the guys haven't discussed yet? And because this is early in the run, it was one of the first ones I saw, and I'm like, I can't remember if they have, and that's when I threw it out to you, and you're like, no, we haven't talked about that one. So to be honest, that's kind of why it wasn't any like, oh, I'm dying to talk about it. It was just like, it was early in the run, so it was one of the first ones I saw that I knew I was pretty sure you hadn't talked about. But no, I actually genuinely like this one. I didn't see it until early 2010. Because this is
Does it take a year to get to you?
Well, this is back in the period where these DC animated films, they weren't coming out in Australia the same time as you guys were getting them. We'd get them months later. Mm-hmm. And this one, I had to order through. I actually ordered the American DVD version through my local comic book shop. So it took even longer. Like, it was the 2-disc edition with the, Batman the Animated Series episodes and stuff on it. So I got it in January, February 2010. So that's when I first saw it. But I had read the comic before that. I bought the gift set of this comic actually in the mid-2000s. It came with the action figures of Batman, Superman as well, done in that Ed McGuinness style and everything. So I remember really liking the comic arc. So I was really excited for this movie, and I was also excited because it was the first one that gave us Batman and Superman together.
Was this because I can't remember the order. So was this was the first team up?
This was the first team up one, yes.
Wow.
I mean they'd been Justice League New Frontier, but this was the first just Batman Superman team up movie. So I was in the bag for it, and one thing I will say, I liked how back in the day when they did these comic adaptations, they did them in the art style of the comic. Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's something I understand they're doing that continuity style now, but I really wish they'd go back to that. Like, I really loved the Death of Superman that you and Jamie talked about a few weeks ago. But imagine how great that would have been in the style, that sort of 90s comic style. I don't know, I reckon I would have liked it even more. Also, a side note, I'm kind of a bit over the character designs and the continuity of the DC movies.
The new 52 versions?
Yeah,
I mean, we talked a little bit about that. As I was like, okay, like let's let the new 52 designs go and let's give them a refresh.
And not it's even funny the designs, like just the animation style. I'm not a fan of. Like, I know we talked about it in Batman Ninja and stuff. I'm not an anime fan, and I don't know. Like, I feel that the look of the cartoons the last couple of years, they kind of have a bit more of an anime look to them. I want more like traditional cartoon look, if that makes sense. But I love the art style in this movie, and I really wish they'd bring something like that back.
Yeah, it's funny because we reviewed that movie, and I said I don't really have a lot negative to say because I really liked that movie. I think they did a great job with it, and Justin Kowalski, from over at Batman on Film, he said the same thing. He goes, I just wish they would have animated it in the style of the comics from the 90s. And I hadn't thought about that at the time because I knew that it was going to be in continuity. So I didn't even think twice about it. And then when he said that, and then I started picturing the entire movie done in that style, and I was like, damn it, you're right. That would have been so much better.
Would have been great.
Yeah, like, so that would have been a way to improve it because I mean, I don't think they haven't completely abandoned that. I mean, because there are the continuity ones and then there are the out of continuity ones. And the out of continuity ones, they still try to emulate the visual style, like Gotham by Gaslight. They did try to emulate that style.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether or not it was successful is up to you. But like Dark Knight Returns, they did the same thing. And even Killing Joke, they tried. And sometimes it's more successful than others. But I agree with you. That's, I think, one of the huge high points of this film is I love the art style. I love that they did it in the style of Ed McGuinness. It's a very unique look for these characters, but I really like it, and I love how it translated to animation. So looking forward, knowing that we're going to get Hush coming up, and Hush is a good story with a great art, and so I really hope they don't drop the ball on how that movie's going to look, because you got to live up to Jim Lee's art, and I hope they got a plan.
I hope they don't do it in continuity either. I hope it's a standalone. Yeah, I really do. But like the Ed McGuinness art, like it's very cartoony anyway, so it lends itself to something like this perfectly, I think. Right. I think from memory, when I first bought the trade, it was around the time I was first getting back into comics, around that sort of Batman Begins era. And I think it was the cover art that attracted me to it anyway. I was just like, oh, this looks awesome. So I bought it. I just bought it based off that. And it was the art that grabbed me.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get it. And I understand. So me coming at Public Enemies, I had not read the book. So I came in completely fresh. I've only seen the movie. I've still not read the book. So I can only speak to it as the movie, and I don't know how many departures were made and story and whatnot.
It's kind of like Under the Red Hood, where they streamlined it a lot. And the parts they cut out, you don't really miss. Mm-hmm. Like there's some cool parts in the comic, because I didn't know you hadn't read it. I was going to mention it a bit later on. But when Bruce and Clark are in the Batcave after sort of their first meeting and encounter and everything, I can't remember exactly how it happens, but I know Superman from the future shows up in the Batcave, kind of in the Kingdom Come style outfit and everything. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene where Superman picks up the Batmobile, to smash into the other Superman, and it's the 60s Batmobile. And it just, like, it's such an amazing shot. And I'm just like, I would have loved to have seen that animated, but at the same time, 2009, Warner Brothers probably wouldn't have had the rights to use that Batmobile anyway. But the 60s Batmobile in that Ed McGuinness style and the bright colors and stuff, it's such a cool shot. I'll have to take a photo of it later and send it to you.
I'll have to look it up.
It's really cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm only coming it from the movie, but I will say I really like this movie. I haven't watched it in years, and so yeah, this was one that I had to dust off, because usually with these animated movies, I really like them, but I'll watch them when they come out and then not revisit them a lot, because there's always another one coming a couple months later, and so yeah, a lot of them just end up sitting on the shelf for a bit. So it was fun to revisit this one. I do remember watching it when it first came out. I remember liking it then, and I still really like it, and it's funny that I say that I don't revisit them a lot, because I do feel like they get better on repeated viewings. And I don't know why that is, but I do find that to be the case more often than not. So I think it's really strong. I do love that it is a Superman Batman buddy movie. I think that's the most fun part of it is seeing these two together on the run and everything that they go throughout that. I don't love everything about the movie, which we'll get into, but for the most part, like, I love the art style. I think the animation is really strong. I think the story is really strong. I love the performances from Kevin Conroy, Tim Daly, and Clancy Brown. I mean, Lex Luthor, he has just as big a part in this movie as Batman and Superman. So this is almost a Lex Luthor movie. And I don't know if you noticed, but Clancy Brown gets top billing.
I was going to say that, but then when I thought about it too, Clancy Brown, Kevin Conroy, Tim Daly, it does also go alphabetically.
I know, yeah. I thought the same thing. I'm like, either he got top billing or it was alphabetical, but even so, Lex Luthor's name came first.
Yep.
Which, I mean, Gene Hackman's name came before Christopher Reeve in 1978.
That was maybe a bit different. I must admit, though, too, you were talking about the bringing back the cast of Superman the animated series and Justice League. This is something I've never been able to mention before, but it's always blown my mind how for years, and it's only been honestly maybe the last 12 or 18 months, I never realized that it wasn't Tim Daly who voiced Superman in Justice League.
Oh yeah, it was George Newbern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
from Father of the Bride.
From Father of the Bride, yeah. I love George Newbern. He's awesome. Yeah, I always forget that Tim Daly and George Newbern would like switch off.
But they sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like I never knew. Like is it Troy? What's his name? Troy, who does
Troy
the
Baker?
Joker? Yeah, like he does a Mark Hamill, but you can tell it's not Hamill. Like it's just slightly off. Whereas Tim and George, like they can swap. They could do line for line, and I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference. It's amazing.
Yeah. I just know that they would like switch off, and I feel like this was maybe Tim Daly's return to the character after a lot of years, because I have a vague recollection of like a featurette where they talked about that, of like, oh, we got Tim Daly back. But I remember that, because I remember seeing the name George Newbern, and I had no idea who it was, but I was like, okay, great. And then one day I looked it up and I went, oh my God, from Father of the Bride?
Exactly.
I love that guy. So yeah, it's
wear a
super
seatbelt.
Cool. So Public Enemies, again, we both really liked it. Again, I think the animation is really strong in this one. Well, I guess I'll get over the spoiler wall. I don't think anyone's too concerned about it, but if you're worried about spoilers, maybe now's the time to pause it and go check this out. I do recommend it. I think it's a good one. Pretty damn solid and super fun to watch. And as Brendan and I have both said, like really cool to see this particular style animated. It works out really well for all the characters, I think. But if you're worried about spoilers, this is your warning. Now that we're over the spoiler wall, quick little synopsis. Lex Luthor has become president of the United States, as he often does. And as is normal, he is up to something. At the same time, there's like this giant, huge meteor of kryptonite bearing down on Earth. And so they're dealing with that. And at the same time, Lex is like, well, that's not a big enough problem. I'm going to use it to frame Superman. And so he frames Superman, so Superman and Batman end up on the run, hence Public Enemies. And President Luthor has his own band of superheroes that are doing his bidding. So it is Captain Atom, Black Lightning, Power Girl, Katana, Starfire, and Major Force.
Major Force, yeah.
Is that right? So they go off to apprehend Batman and Superman, and it's kind of like man on the run. Batman and Superman are on the run, and they're having to deal with supervillains and superheroes while at the same time trying to save the world from this meteor that is bearing down on it. And all kinds of super heroic hijinks ensue, as they tend to. But that is one of the other things I love about this movie is you get just so many awesome cameos from superheroes and supervillains that are out trying to apprehend Batman and Superman.
Yes, it's really cool.
So yeah, it's super fun. Like they introduce kind of Lex Luthor's little strike team at the beginning, and you go, okay, that's cool. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like there's this segment in the middle, and I think it's kind of the standout segment of the entire film is Batman and Superman get ambushed by supervillains. And at first it's just like the ice supervillains, Mr. Freeze and Icicle and Killer Frost and
it's
Captain
cool
Cold.
seeing all those grouped together. I really like that.
I always like when they all band together with their
because essentially they're the same character, really.
Yeah. So and you're like, oh, that's fun. And then like out of the woods comes like 20 more, and it's just this supervillain parade, and like Solomon Grundy's in there, and Mongol, and Gorilla Grodd, and Bane, and Deadshot.
Banshee as well.
Silver Banshee, yeah, like just so many, and some of which I was like, I don't even know who that is. There's one called Nightshade. I don't really know who she is, but she's in there.
Yeah, I remember seeing her. I think she might have been in an episode of Superman the Animated Series. I could be wrong, but I'm not familiar with the character, but I remember her from somewhere.
Yeah, like the name sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard of her, but But when she showed up, I was like, I don't know who that is. Let me look. Oh, okay, it's Nightshade. Great. So like, yeah, just like this Giganta is in there, which is amazing. Like you never see Giganta. So like, yeah, just like Copperhead, just like a who's who of supervillains all going after Batman and Superman at once, and like Superman and Batman have to fight them off, and it's like pure comic book nerd porn, but I don't care. It's so cool. It's super fun.
We're comic book nerds, so
I know, right?
Like that stuff. But I love how, like that scene, how the twist to it is that they're being controlled by Grodd.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool too.
And how Batman's like, wait a minute, I recognize those speech patterns.
Yeah, because when I kind of remembered but forgot that part as well, because when Grundy was talking, I'm like, hang on, like then I remembered, no, that's right, it's Grodd, because I'm like, yeah, Grundy isn't that eloquent, but yeah, I mean, you're talking about Lex being president. This is the pre-credit sequence, you know, where there's, you know, financial crises and talk show hosts, you know, dissing presidential candidates and stuff like that. This is the first time I've watched this movie in a post-Trump world, and I was a little bit amused at how, not in a good way, but how, you know, watching this for me in early 2010, this just seemed like pure fiction. Cutting to now, it's like, wow, this is kind of like life's imitated art in a way.
Yeah, it was a little too close for comfort in a couple moments.
Noticed it wasn't just me. That's good.
Oh no, I noticed.
And I also forgot to, like, in this sort of modern, you know, the last couple of years, I forgot how they used to draw Amanda Waller.
Right, yeah.
She's essentially like a walking potato.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Yeah, it's so, like, I forgot too, because it's like that has changed as well. Relatively, you know, not that long ago, but yeah, just I haven't seen Amanda Waller portrayed that style before for a long time. So I was like, oh wow, that's right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right. They have slimmed her down a bit, but I mean that was how she always looked. She was always a very large woman. Yeah,
it's just that I haven't seen her drawn like that in such a while now. It's kind of like, oh, that's right, I just forgot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially in Justice League, like the show. Yeah, she was. That was Amanda Waller. So yeah, I mean, super fun. And so speaking of, like, there's the little prologue where, and that's in that prologue is when Lex Luthor is like, oh, here's my, you know, here's the superheroes I'm keeping on staff, and it's like Captain Atom, Power Girl, Black Lightning, Katana, and then it said Major Force, and I was like, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. I had never heard of Major Force before this movie.
Neither had I.
Okay, good. I was curious. I'm like, is he a thing? I've never heard of him. Or did they invent him for this story because of what's going to happen?
Actually, when I read the comic of this was the first time because again, it was back when I was just getting into comics again. This was an introduction to a lot of those characters for me, particularly Captain Atom.
Oh, really?
He stands out. Yeah, because I hadn't read comics for over a decade, and even then, before then, it was pretty much like exclusively Batman, and even then, the Batman Adventures, like that was pretty much all I read. So yeah, this was an introduction to a lot of those characters for me. So, but it always stands out to me how much Captain Atom and Major Force, like they're the same character, just different colors. Essentially, yes. They look so much alike.
Well, and Captain Atom's been around a long time. I'm familiar with him. I've got plenty of Captain Atom comics. I feel like he hasn't been super prevalent recently.
Not in the New 52, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a while since I've seen him in any current comics. But, you know, when I was growing up in the 90s, he was around. And so, yeah, for me, I never blinked at Captain Atom. But, yeah, when they said Major Force, I was like, should I know who that is? Like, am I a bad fan? But I don't think I should. I think they made him up for this because it's certainly, you know, intentional that he looks very much like Captain Atom. So that way they can, and then I think this is one of it's fun about the movie, but I think it could have been done better, is they do a little bit of a red herring where at a certain point, you know, Metallo shows up. Metallo is Lex Luthor's bodyguard, and There's this great Superman Metallo fight, which eventually becomes a Batman Metallo fight. It's a really great action scene, but after Metallo thinks he has won, he's walking back and he sees the silhouette, and the silhouette looks much like Captain Atom or Major Force, and he goes, "Oh, it's you." And the next thing we know, Metallo is dead. And so it's like a really cool red herring where you're like, oh, it's Captain Atom, especially because later on they go, oh, Metallo was killed by radioactive energy, which is Captain Atom's thing. But they don't do anything with it, really, because just kind of halfway through the movie, I think it's Batman who just goes, "Yeah, Major Force, I know you're the killer."
Oh yeah, Batman just like baits him and calls him out on it.
Yeah, so like they didn't do much with that mystery that they tried to set up, which I'm like is kind of a shortcoming of it. But still, it was certainly convenient that they look exactly the same, just with different color schemes.
I do actually like that scene with Batman. It's actually, I know Batman does it, but it's also a very Bond thing to do, where you just like bait the villain to the point where they break. And I like how that's where Captain Atom, he sees the truth and realizes that he's, been on the wrong team the whole time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is a great setup, and it's one of the things I like more about this movie is that like you've got these heroes who've signed up to support the president, even though he's Lex Luthor. And there was even a point where they say, you can't admit it, but he's actually done a good job, which again, a little painful to hear.
Yep.
And so like, they're like, well, like, of course he's Lex Luthor, but he's actually doing his job, and he's actually doing a good job. And so, Superman being like, it doesn't matter. He's Lex Luthor. Like, this is not going to end well. And just seeing them being torn between that, and especially Power Girl, that's one of the things I really do like about the movie as well, is how Power Girl is sort of that linchpin between Batman and Superman, and then the Stooges, or whatever you want to call them, who are working for Luthor. It's so great to see her really torn between the two. So it just sets up a really cool dynamic between these characters and between these heroes.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree with you there.
So yeah, I dig that, except for Major Force, who I never trusted in the first place.
No. I mean, he's an evil twin. He's an evil twin, like, pretty much.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah,
but
nice to see Black Lightning.
I forgot about Black Lightning as well. Yeah.
He doesn't get to do much.
Yeah, Black Lightning.
Yeah, he only gets like one line of dialogue.
Creates a force field.
Yeah, no, he comes in handy, but yeah, they don't give him a lot to do in this.
No.
And I think it was LeVar Burton who did Black Lightning's like one line. Yeah, it is LeVar Burton. Geordie LaForge. Yeah. So yeah, he got to do Black Lightning.
I know we're jumping all over the place too, but
that's fine.
I also really like the small part that Alfred plays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, even before that, I need to make mention, when they're after their fight with Metallo, when they're sort of in the grave and everything, and what's the line where it's about Batman having a sense of humor? Like, Superman makes a joke or something, he goes, "Oh, I don't have a sense of, do us a favor and
lose the sense of humor."
Lose the sense of humor, and Superman's like, "Do us both a favor and buy one." Like, yes. I love that line. It so encapsulates their relationship. Like, even when things are like down and out and Superman's he is dying, he's got a kryptonite bullet in him, he's still able to have a sense of humor and ribs Batman for not having one. Ever since, because that's in the comic as well, and I've always loved that part. But when they're going through the sewers and everything, and they get to that electrified gate, and Superman pulls it, rips the gate out and everything. He's down and out. And after all the measures they've gone through to get into the Batcave, the last line of defense is Alfred with a pump action.
Right.
I love that. I just love that everything, and it still comes down to, if they make it that far, they've got to get past Alfred. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I love that Alfred showed up, because I was actually thinking throughout the movie, I'm like, it's Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, but it's pretty light on the Batman world. You know, we get the Bat
Yeah.
Cave, but that's kind of it. You know, you don't get much else. And I even was like, oh yeah, no Alfred, no Robin, I don't even think we get a Batmobile in this.
No, like see in the comic, there's a big arc too. It's been a few years since I've read it, but there's a big arc where like I think it's kind of a lot of the sidekicks. Or a lot more superheroes actually come to help Batman and Superman. From memory, you might like to check it out actually, because from memory, Nightwing has quite a role in it too.
Okay.
But that was just what part that they slimmed right down to fit in there. Because this movie's quite short. This is like a 70-minute, I think, from memory.
Yeah, it is really short. So
because they push them to about 90 these days, don't they?
some of the more recent ones are getting closer.
Yeah.
I don't think they've quite hit the 90 mark yet, but they're getting, like, for the longest time they were all 75.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was one that was like 83, and like so some of them are getting really close to 90.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I was kind of like, oh, you know, like, and again, just as a Batman fan, I just like seeing Batman's world, and this one's pretty light on it. It's more of a Superman story, and it is more of just kind of a DC Universe story. So when Alfred showed up, I was just like, oh, good, you know, we do get to see Alfred. Great. And this was super exciting to me. Do you know who did Alfred's voice?
Oh, I can't remember if he started doing it in this one, but I know in a lot of these movies, the guy from NCIS.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah,
not in this one.
Yeah, okay. Who was it in this one?
So in this one, it was Alan Oppenheimer. And do you know who that is?
No, I might. Remind me.
He was Skeletor.
Oh, okay.
So
See,
yeah,
I wasn't a Masters of the Universe kid, so.
Oh, sad. So yes, Skeletor is in this, and he's Alfred. He also did Falcor the Luck Dragon in the Neverending Story.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah,
a bunch of other stuff. He's been a voice actor for 100 years, and he's amazing. But yes, like, so when I saw his name, I was like, oh my god, I had no idea he did Alfred. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. I think it was Ducky from NCIS. I know in a lot of the ones sort of around this period for a few years, he voiced Alfred, but I wasn't sure if this is when he started or not. So.
I see.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that scene though in the sewers, and that is, I mean, I love the big, huge, like super powered, super villain, then superhero battle in the middle. Again, I think that's arguably the highlight of the film. Like that's just
it's the
super
centerpiece.
fun. Yeah, it's amazing. But the scene with Superman and Batman underground is also one of the highlights of the film, because you really get to see their friendship. And I loved seeing their dynamic and seeing their friendship. And I love that in this version. Huh?
They're help because they're both screwed. Like they're both really seriously injured, and they're both helping each other. Like at one part, Batman's carrying Superman, and other parts, Superman's carrying Batman. Like
right.
They're literally leaning on each other for support. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like this is a Batman and a Superman that have a history. And so they already have this very special relationship, and just to see it like that is really cool. And I think that it's the strongest in that scene, where it is just the two of them trying to get back to Wayne Manor, injured, trying to survive, and just talking to each other. Yeah.
And there's that other classic line too later on where they were going somewhere, and Superman says to Batman, you didn't need, was it the plane or something else? Like, I could have carried you. And Batman's like, I hate that. Or just so you know, I hate that. Or so, like, he references the fact that he hates that he has to be carried.
Right.
I love that line too. I'm totally butchering it, but yeah.
No, yeah, he said, you didn't have to use the line. I could have just carried you. And he says something like, yeah, between you and me, I hate that.
Yes, that's it. That's
and then like jump
too.
Was that?
I said that's classic Batman Superman too. I love it.
Yeah. And then like jumping towards the end, Superman is fighting Lex Luthor, and there's a point where he says something about like, I just lost my best friend, or my best friend died because of you, something like that. But he referred to Batman as his best friend, and you just kind of went, oh, that's so sweet.
Yep.
Bromance. I love it. So yeah, like there's some great stuff, just again really having fun with the two of their partnership, their friendship, their differences, and I think that's, the whole movie works because of that.
Exactly.
for me, the thing that works a little bit less, this is where I the movie gets a little bit much for me. It is in the end, with Toyman.
Yeah. I had a feeling this is where it might.
It just kind of crosses the line to ridiculous, and I just can't get fully on board with it. Up until that point, I love it. Like, I love what Lex is doing. I love, he and Waller. I love Batman and Superman on the run. I love them. Fighting the supervillains and then fighting the superheroes. Like, there's a great moment. It's one of my favorite moments where Shazam and Hawkman confront them, and it ends up with Superman and Batman
there.
Swapping places with them. Like, it was so cool. Like, I love that. So there's so much good stuff. And then they decide that the solution to this meteor is to go talk to Toyman, who in this version is a little kid, because I've seen so many different versions of Toyman, but in this version, he's a little kid in Japan who's super smart.
Yes. And
he's built a giant robot to take out the meteor. And it's
this is the second movie this year we've had a giant Batman robot that we're talking about too. Go figure.
I know. It's just a bit much. I don't know. Like, and like the fact that the robot is like half Superman, half Batman. Like, I get what they're going for because it's a Batman Superman movie, so the big robot's going to be half and half. But I don't know. It's not the worst thing ever. But I just have a hard time like loving it.
Yes, I do. I do love how, with Toyman being a 13-year-old boy, and they send Power Girl to look after him.
Yeah.
I do love what that leads to. I know it's juvenile, but look, we were both 13-year-old boys at one point.
You might argue that I still am.
I was about to say, sometimes I still feel like I act like I'm a 13-year-old boy, but I do love that line where, they say to him, have you done this? Does Power Girl have big? And then Batman cuts him off to finish. I remember reading that in the comic and it cracked me up. And every time I watch this movie, that line cracks me up. And how Power Girl's like, no, I'm perfectly fine here. I'm giving him as much space as he needs.
Yeah, right.
I love it. It's so funny. Because, what hormonal 13-year-old kid wouldn't love Power Girl?
I understand.
Yeah, that line always tickles me. I think it's great.
So yeah, and that's funny stuff. I think I would have liked it better if they did a better job of setting him up. I mean, there's like one line of dialogue where Amanda Waller says something about, oh, there's that boy in Japan. But even so, it just kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. It's like, oh, and now we're going to go.
It really does.
Now we're going to go see this little kid and he's built a robot.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And I mean, maybe some people dig it, but for me, again, it's just a little too cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact that the Batman says, I mean, even to think he's only got one line where he says, I've got a plan, or I've got something on the work. He's alluding to the fact that he's got a plan for the meteor as well. We don't know that it's Toyman, but like, even if there had have been something to maybe allude to that character, or even throughout the movie, if Batman on his, like his radio or stuff, you don't necessarily know who he's communicating with, but you do know that he's communicating with someone throughout. Like, I don't know, but yeah, it really does. Like, it does come from left field. I can't remember specifically in the comic if there is more of a build up to that. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it, but I mean, it obviously it ends the same way. Like, it is Toyman and there is the big robot, but yeah, just going, looking at this movie, forgetting about the comic that inspired it really does come out of nowhere. It's a bit off.
Right. And they kind of try to give some logic for the robot with Toyman, where he says something about like, oh, it's an old design when I was really into hero worship. They try, but I just feel like even if it was just a rocket ship,
yeah,
it would have been a little just easier to swallow. Because I do love the idea of like Batman jumping in, taking off, he's going to sacrifice himself to stop this meteor. Like, I like that. And I really love how that affects Superman, with Superman fighting Lex. And then even
the power
where...
suit.
I know. I love the Lex power suit. Where do you stand on it?
I love it. I think it's great.
I love it. So I feel like fans are very like hot and cold on it. Like I know a lot of fans love it and a lot of fans hate it. But I've always been a fan. Maybe growing up in the 80s, because I always had that superpowers figure where he was in the suit. So for me, I just like it. But yeah, I love that in this one. And earlier on, there's a point where Lex gets off of the helicopter, and the helicopter is purple and green. And I had forgotten he gets in the power suit in this movie. And so I was like, oh, what a great nod to the power suit. Cool. And then later he gets in it and then goes nuts. And I was like, oh, awesome. I love it. So yeah, I love the power suit. I'm all for it in a live action movie someday.
That'd be great. And he lays one on Amanda Waller too.
Yeah. Yeah. Lex has kind of lost it in this one.
He has.
Which a president would never get drunk with power and completely lose his shit. That would not happen.
No. God, no.
God, no. But yeah, when he kisses him... Well, yeah, and his solution is like, we don't stop the meteor. We just let it do its thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
I do like Amanda Waller's turn as well when he's... when Lex is telling Batman and Superman as Shazam and Hawkman what he intends to do, and the way that Waller cuts him off, like she tells him to shut up, but the way she says it is it's a really good line delivery. And then she hands the information to Batman, and she's like, go and save us. Like Waller, I do like how Waller is a thorn in the side of the heroes 99% of the time, but she's that way where a lot of villains, the best villains, they think they're doing the right thing. But they genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. And that is what Amanda Waller is. She always has people's best interests in heart. It's the way she goes about it. But she is also not above knowing when she can't, or things have gone too far, she can't use her powers to save the day. She will turn to Batman or Superman or whoever to get the job done, because at the end of the day, she is just trying to do the right thing.
Oh yeah, she's always, the best versions of Waller have always been that, yes, she is an antagonist, but at the same time, she has her own code and it will often create these uneasy alliances. Like the Justice League animated series did such a great job of having this uneasy respect, like an adversarial respect between Batman and Waller.
Oh, that episode where he rocks up in her bathroom.
In the shower.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, no, I agree with you. Like, they did a really nice job with Waller here, and her just kind of witnessing Lex slowly lose it until where she finally steps in and has to take over.
Yeah.
There's also another great moment where he says something about, like, where have you been? And Superman goes, oh, you wouldn't understand. And Batman goes, Lois? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, you're right.
So many good Superman Batman moments in this movie. Like,
yeah, it's just their interaction, like it's so good. And and it makes me want to see like that sort of camaraderie in a live action movie.
Yes. I totally agree.
Finally get to that place, so
I hope it. I don't think it's going to, but I really hope it does one day.
Someday. The other thing I was thinking is during that big, huge like battle royale in the center of the movie, because again, initially it's Batman and Superman versus just all of these supervillains, and then eventually Captain Atom and his crew show up, and then it becomes Batman and Superman versus these heroes, and at a certain point, Superman creates like this whirlwind,
yes,
by flying super fast, and I was like, is he trying to turn back time so none of this ever happened?
He actually forms a bit of a red tornado.
Yes, he does. So yeah, and the other thing, we mentioned it earlier, is about Major Force. Is that right?
Yes.
Major Force. I remember his turn being a bigger deal than it is.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, like I swore I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That guy turns out, he turns out to be bad, and it's like, but it wasn't as big a deal. It's like, Batman calls him on it, and then he dies like in that scene, and that's kind of it. So again, I feel like that subplot was probably a bigger deal in the book, and they preserved it for the movie, but they weren't able to quite give it as much time as it might have deserved.
Yeah, it's again, I can't remember. I'm assuming in the comic it is probably a bit of a bigger deal, but I mean, I guess it kind of serves its purpose in this movie when you've got a 70-minute runtime. But yeah, I do like his demise and how it comes about, and like how, like I said, Captain Atom, having been an adversary through the whole thing, he ends up saving everyone. Because he saw he was being played as well, so he knew he had to do the right thing.
Yeah. No, that is a great moment with all those heroes finally having to band together to stop this breach, and then Captain Atom taking care of it. So yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
Any other big parts of the movie that we have not hit on that you want to make sure you mention?
Just trying to think. We've kind of hit on all the major action beats. I've definitely talked about all the favorite lines that I had that I really wanted to bring up. Not that I can think of, no.
All right. Sweet. Well, then let's give some closing thoughts and some letter grades. Go right ahead.
I think in summing this movie up, like, it's one that I revisit every so often. I haven't revisited this one since early 2016, where I went back and watched every single thing I had with Batman and Superman in it together in the lead up to BVS. And it's the same as you. It's because we get, 4 of these, sometimes 5, if you include other things like, Batman and Scooby-Doo and the Batman 60s movies and stuff like that. We're getting a lot of DC animated movies per year now. So I don't get to revisit the earlier ones as much as I'd like. But this is one that before the collection, expanded so much every year, I would revisit it quite a bit. It's just a good, fun superhero romp, and it may very well be, in terms of, a movie, animated or otherwise, maybe the best that we've seen the relationship of Batman and Superman. The more that we've talked about it today, the more I'm just like, I already knew it was there, but the more I'm just like, yeah, it really does encapsulate those two and their relationship pretty damn perfectly. Mm-hmm. And again, like we mentioned, that combined with the look and the animation style, it's a solid movie, and it's one that I really enjoy. So I reckon I'd probably give it a B+.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think we're very much on the same page. It is a super fun and entertaining movie. It's really just great to see a Batman Superman team up like this, where they've got the history, and it's just fun to see them take on the world. The amount of the DC universe that they're able to fit into 70-ish minutes is really impressive from both a villain and a hero standpoint. Again, we mentioned that Shazam Hawkman thing. That's another really great scene, and it's after everything that we had already seen. And so yeah, they get to play with different parts of the universe, and that's really cool too. So the animation's great. I like the voice acting. I like the story. For me, again, the Toyman giant robot stuff is a little bit much for me, but still, I really enjoyed rewatching it. It was a really fun rewatch, and it's cool that it's really, really heavy on Lex Luthor. Like really playing with his character and exploring him as the president. So yeah, it's a good solid entry into the DC animated films. I'm with you. B+ feels about right.
Nice.
So
hang on. I've always wanted to do this. Hear that?
Oh, I do hear it.
Same page.
Same page. So yeah, we it's Superman Batman, not Batman Superman.
Yeah.
Superman Batman.
It feels
Public
weird
Enemies.
saying it that way after the last couple of years, doesn't it?
It really does, and my mind is always just going to put Batman first anyway. So
Well, yeah, you're only human.
I know. I mean, that's just the way it is. But anyway, Superman Batman, Public Enemies from 2009. Definitely worth your time and fun to just revisit it randomly for no apparent reason, just for the hell of it. Super fun. We can't get enough of our animated Batman. We just can't. And so that's why we watched another episode of Batman the Animated Series. So it's time to review the next episode up, which is Growing Pains. Show me that smile again. Did you have that show in
We did. I can
in Australia?
Vaguely remember it. I was really young.
Okay.
I don't have the memories for that show like I do, like, say, The Golden Girls or Family Matters and stuff like that. But, like that and Who's the Boss, that kind of era, I can remember watching them with Mum and Dad and stuff, but I can't really remember specifics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. I didn't know if that was completely lost on you. Anyway, guys.
Is that the one with Kirk Cameron?
Yeah, which now. But I loved that show when I was a kid, and now I watch it and I'm like, oh, Kirk Cameron.
The dad, the actor,
Alan Thicke.
Alan Thicke, he died recently, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always remembered him.
Yep. It was good. I liked that show. But most notable for giving Leonardo DiCaprio his start.
That's right. Yeah. I remember hearing that too.
They randomly, like in the last season, they randomly adopted a homeless kid who was played by Leonardo DiCaprio. You always know a sitcom is on its last legs when they bring in some random kid out of nowhere.
Well, yeah.
He was the Cousin Oliver.
Cousin Oliver. I get that reference.
Good. All right. So Growing Pains, the episode of Batman the Animated Series. This is about the Seaver family, and the Seaver family have 3 kids. Mike, Carol, and Ben. I can't. Was his name Ben?
I can't remember. I said I don't know it that well enough.
Anyway, Mr. Seaver is a psychiatrist, and all kinds of fun things happen with their little family dynamic. No, that's the wrong thing. I'm reading the wrong synopsis. This Growing Pains is about Robin. So Robin is on patrol and sees this cute girl who needs help. And he decides he's going to become her little guardian angel. He helps her out. She's very afraid of something. She is on the run, and Robin gets a little obsessed with this girl, and so he just wants to help her. He gives her a name, Annie, because she doesn't even remember her name. She has amnesia, but she is running from a man who we think is her father. At the same time, Batman is trying to keep Robin out of it while he tries to figure out who this man is. And spoilers, we find out the man is actually Clayface, and Annie was a piece of Clayface that he had sent off to, like, essentially scout for him. And once she went off, she forgot what she was supposed to be doing, and so she was completely lost. And so Batman and Robin defeat Clayface, but not before he reabsorbs Annie into himself, and Robin ends the episode heartbroken. So what did you think of Growing Pains, Brendan?
When we were talking about doing this episode and you said it was Growing Pains, for some reason I thought that was the episode with Baby Doll and Killer Croc.
Oh, okay.
And I, just based on that title, and I was like, oh God, do I have to watch that one? Because I'm not a Baby Doll fan at all. And when you messaged back and you said, no, it's a Clayface one, I'm like, oh, I can watch that. But even then, I'm not a big Clayface fan either. And I'd forgotten about this episode, but this has always been my favorite Clayface episode. Again, I won't bury the lead. I love this episode. I really do. I remember the first time I ever saw it, having no idea where it was going. Absolutely no idea. And that twist came out of nowhere for me. I in the best way that, the best twists do. I really, really liked that reveal. And felt genuinely heartbroken for Tim.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sad episode. And again, it shouldn't be a surprise, written by Paul Dini. So that's why it's so good. I feel, because like I said, I've never been a big Clayface fan. Like, I can take the character, but he wouldn't even make my top maybe 15 Batman villains. So yeah, the fact that again Dini can take a character who I'm a bit about and write this solid, really entertaining and kind of gut wrenching episode is it says a lot about Dini as a writer. But yeah, it's definitely one that I really enjoy.
I feel exactly the same way. I like Clayface just fine. And I will say, I think I would have enjoyed this episode even more if the description on it hadn't given away that it was a Clayface episode. So okay. I watched it on iTunes, and in its synopsis, it's like, Tim tries to help a young girl who ends up being Clayface. And then same thing like in the synopsis on Wikipedia, it's like, this turns out to be Clayface. But when you watch it, if you watch it without knowing that, the mystery is actually really strong of like, who's this girl? Why is this guy chasing her? So I wish that mystery had been preserved. I mean, maybe it was when I watched it way back when, but this time when I started it, I knew it was a Clayface episode, so that kind of ruined the whole thing. But even so, it wasn't one that I was like, I can't wait to watch Growing Pains, except for that terrific theme song. And so as I was watching it, I was like, wait, this episode is great. Yeah. I forgot how good this episode was, because you're right. It's a super heartbreaking episode, and you really feel for Tim, because Tim, he just wants to help this girl, and when the truth about her comes out, and then when she ceases to be, it's heartbreaking. Yep. And so it's just this really strong emotional episode. And as you say, that's a Paul Dini trademark. He's really good at that. And he worked on it with Robert Goodman, and apparently Robert Goodman actually wrote the script, but Paul Dini helped with the story.
Okay.
But yeah, like to take, like, what a great idea for an episode. And it's just it's great that it's a Tim Drake story. It's great. I love that it's a Robin story and Batman is more of a supporting player. I love the mystery aspect of it. And I just love like that really heartbreaking, bittersweet ending.
Yeah. Like when I went to watch it yesterday, I still didn't remember which Clayface episode it was. And when it started and I saw Annie, Jess was in the room and I put it on. I'm like, it's this episode. I'm like, this is good. Like, I'm happy I'm watching this one. Yeah, it's so good. But that ending is, it's a real gut punch, because they get him for robbery and all the other stuff. There's anything else he needs to be charged with. And Robin's just like, yeah, murder. Yeah. And it's like, you poor kid. Like, oh my God. Right in the guts.
Absolutely. It's a really downer of an ending, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, but
I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah, sometimes you want that with your Batman or any story, is if it's good and it can leave you in it with a gut punch, but it's the best kind of gut punch. Like, yeah, those stories are always really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when Batman figures out that it's Clayface and he says, I know who the father is, and he jumps in the Batmobile and he races off. It's just like this really great, again, if you didn't know what was coming, like, it's just a really great suspenseful episode.
Well, talking about line delivery before with Amanda Waller, this is one I wanted to mention with this, because doesn't he say, I know who Daddy is?
Yes.
And right. It's the way he says it. And again, if you don't know, because they refer to what he's researching as dirt. He's like, like the way even Tim's like, I'm not going to waste my time while you study dirt. I'm actually going to go out and find this girl. And then when it comes back and Batman's like, oh my God. And after it's like, what? He goes, I know who Daddy is. And the way he like runs to the Batmobile, you're just like, what? what the hell is going on? Who is this guy? Yeah, but that line delivery of I know who Daddy is, it adds to it. It's so good. It's such a good delivery from Conroy.
Yeah. And earlier on, he's having a conversation with Commissioner Gordon, and Commissioner Gordon says something about like, oh, teenagers, thank God Barbara's got those days behind her, or her wild days behind her, or something like that. And Batman just kind of smirks at him.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean this episode is great. If you have not revisited this one, you should. I forgot how good it was. Even reading the description, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, but it didn't do it justice to how strong this one is.
No, and the other part too, like Tim was seriously, he was that hurt about what happened with Annie, like he was going to take out Clayface.
Right.
If Batman hadn't showed up when he did, Clayface was a goner. Tim was going to kill him.
Yeah, I know. This is a great moment, like there where. Well, and even prior to that, when you see him like reabsorb Annie and she's screaming,
it's like, dark.
It's really hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And when she says, "I'm not real," it's heartbreaking.
One for the kids.
Yeah, fun for the kids. But yeah, great one. Yeah. What do you think? Thoughts and letter grade?
Well, obviously I love it. And for me, it's a solid A, which for me to say that for a Clayface episode, that's a big deal. It's a solid A. I love this episode.
Yeah. Wait. Hold on.
Oh,
same page.
Same page.
It's great. Like I love my action adventure. I love watching Batman punch people. I love Robin swinging through Gotham City. I love all that. But like when you can make it this emotional, and especially as you say with a Clayface episode, it's it really elevates the character and it elevates the show. This is a great episode. I'm at an A as well. So Growing Pains, check it out. It's awesome. The next one, Brendan, is called Love is a Croc.
Oh.
With Baby Doll and Killer Croc. So, are you free next week?
Yep. Damn it.
Yeah, for all you Baby Doll fans out there, your day has come. Congrats. So anyway, yes, Love is a Croc is the next episode, but in the meantime, watch Growing Pains, and we continue our journey through this final season of Batman the Animated Series, aka the new Batman Adventures. And we love that you follow along with us, and we also love when you tell us how we're doing, and so we're going to check in with you fine folks in the Wayne Manor mailbox. It is time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Derek. What is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter. You're one hell of a messenger.
Sizzle, Master Wayne.
All right, first email here is from Marcus Ellis. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family, I absolutely love this podcast. It's like sitting down and shooting the shit with your friends, and it's effortless to listen to, and that made it so easy to cruise through the backlog. I feel like Andy and Jamie are two halves of my personality, and this point was truly driven home during the Comic-Con 2018 episode when you were expressing excitement about all the movies coming up, and specifically Andy's love for Dead Silence. I'm a huge fan as well. Thanks for all you do and will do. Cough, Justice League series review. Cough. Keep it up." Marcus, thank you for that message. That's great. I'm glad you love Dead Silence because it's amazing. And anybody who hasn't seen Dead Silence, that's my recommendation, especially now that Halloween season is coming up. It is a perfect October movie watching thing. And Justice League series reviews, noted.
The last 12 months with real fans and everything, my opinion on scary movies has changed slightly. And last year I was very much part of the Scare-a-thon that happens every October there. I may pop Dead Silence on my list this year.
You do it. But if you don't like it, don't tell me.
Okay. Which means that means I'm going to tell you, right?
Of course. If this is another Jaws incident, Brendan,
let's not go there.
I will kill you. I will fly to Melbourne and
I'm in Brisbane, but okay.
Oh, I don't. Okay. Well, I'll go to Melbourne and take a cab.
Oh Christ, you wouldn't want to do that. That's a long way.
Okay. Anyway. Next message here is from Chris DeSanto. It says, "Hey, I just listened to your latest episode and I wanted to thank you for the positive reaction to Batwoman and Ruby Rose. One of my daughters is LGBTQ and there's daily struggles about things that hurt her and me as a parent. I often agree with you both, and on the rare occasion I don't, it's just fine. I love your successful attempts at positivity. I'm the parent of 2 girls who enjoy my DC obsession. My 5-year-old seems to like Martian Manhunter, Batgirl, Supergirl. My favorites with Batman, Superman is Doom Patrol and JSA. Thanks for reading this and your very entertaining comments. Good thoughts to you and Jamie and your respective families." Very nice. Thank you, Chris. Glad you liked the last episode.
I have to mention briefly with the Batwoman thing. When I was listening to last week's episode when you and Jamie were talking about that, before you went on your whole like, is she Australian? Oh, he's a bush baby. That whole bit.
Yeah.
As I was listening to it, legitimately, I was actually washing up, and I was just like, "Oh, they haven't mentioned she's an Aussie yet." And as I thought that, that's when you started going your rant. I'm like, oh, "Okay, there we go. Moving on."
Because you like to take credit for every Australian who's successful.
I don't like to take credit for every Australian.
Somehow, it's all thanks to Brendan Lowe.
I just like to see us do well. And look, if an Aussie's going to play someone in the Bat family, of course I'm going to be happy about it.
Well, I'm happy for you. All right, next message here is from Justin Lee. It says, "Hey, Andy and Jamie, it's been a while. I have a 2-part question for you. Number 1, Armie Hammer. How would you guys feel about he being cast as Batman? I know that he was attached to Miller's JL film, but I think the dude is pitch perfect. After reading Tom King's latest Batman arc, what classic movie are you guys excited to see King tackle next? You're welcome, Jamie. Keep up the great work, Justin." Justin, hey, man. Good to hear from you. So, Armie Hammer. Brendan, what do you think?
I think he'd be fine. He's one that's obviously since 2008, like his name is always kind of bandied about a bit. But I think he's a rare actor who could probably play Batman or Superman, and be very good at both. So yeah, I'd be keen to see how it turned out.
Yeah, I would support it completely. I like him a lot. I like him even better for Batman now that he's a little bit older. I think that when he was cast in Justice League Mortal, I feel like he was really young.
That was a young cast, but yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was very young and pretty much unknown back then too.
Right. So I would be all for it. I think it would be great. So I'd have no problem with that whatsoever. And plus, I love the Lone Ranger, and I think he's great in that. So whatever, fight me. And as for the latest Tom King, I am a few issues behind, so I don't get the reference.
And I don't read them, so I'm completely out of the loop.
So I don't know. Maybe we bring that one back when Jamie's back. But apparently Tom King did something about a classic movie with Batman. I'm a few issues behind. So Justin, thank you for the message. Next message here is from Clarence Eugene. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast family. Thank you for... Brendan, look. Thank you for the Santa Claus the Movie shout-out on the last episode." Yay. Fuse Pops. Speaking of Santa Claus the Movie, I know Brendan would love this question. If Dudley Moore played Mxyzptlk in Superman 3, would he have played it like he played Patch in Santa Claus the Movie, but like a more evil version of Patch, but as Mxyzptlk?
I can only hope.
Yes? Probably. I think he probably would have been a little like more hyped up and like a little more over the top as Mxyzptlk, because his Patch, he was pretty understated, surprisingly.
Yeah, and he spends most of the movie feeling bummed out, so.
And you have to be understated compared to BZ.
Well. You have to be. Whether you're acting over the top or not, you're always going to come across as understated.
BZ will just blow you out of the water. So yeah, I think Dudley Moore, like, cranked up a couple notches, just a probably more mischievous and over the top as Mixel Spitlick, I think he would have been amazing. So it's a shame we never got to see it, but at least we have his performance as Patch the Elf to cherish every December.
Yes, we do. Oh, God, I love that movie.
Patch. Natch.
So,
all right, one
Andy,
last
move
email.
along. That's all self-explanatory. Let's go.
Yes. It just gives me a sense of elf confidence. All right, this is from Tyler Kloster. It says, "Hey gang, I enjoyed your most recent episode." Oh, I knew this was coming. It says, "However, I have to take exception with the notion that Scarface would be one of the least cinematic Batman villains. I grant that I might be a little defensive, as Scarface is in my personal top 5 Bat villains, with Scarecrow, the Riddler, the Joker, and Ra's al Ghul. I also grant that it would be a villain very easy to get wrong on the big screen, especially if played for silliness or camp. However, I've long wanted to see a live-action version of Scarface and the ventriloquist on the movie screen, and I honestly believe that if you got a very talented director who could lean into the horror elements of the Batman mythos and play up the madness of Arnold Wesker and his wooden friend, you could have a terrifying villain. Again, yes, it could go wrong, but I don't think he could be the primary villain in a movie, but just imagine that someone like James Wan could do with Scarface. That's it. Keep up the great work, Tyler." Tyler, thank you for the message, and you threw James Wan in there just because you know I love Dead Silence. I know your game, Tyler. I know what you're playing, and I'm not playing. I knew this was coming. I think I even said it before I gave my answer. I was like, this is gonna piss off some fans, because I know Scarface has his fans. It's just a character I've never liked. Like, I haven't liked him in comics, I haven't liked him in animation, and I can't imagine him in live action. He's just a Batman villain that's never done it for me. So I know he's got his fans. Tyler, I'm glad you love Scarface, man. Go on, you do you. But for me, he's just never been one that I've read a story with him when I went, oh, that was actually really good. That's just me.
I think I gave my thoughts on Scarface when we reviewed that episode a little while ago now. I enjoy the character. He wouldn't be top 10 or whatever, villain for me, but it's an interesting concept. And I mean, I do agree with what Tyler said. Obviously, if it was done correctly and done well, yes, it would work, but so would any of the villains. Like Killer Croc or Clayface or any of the wackier villains yes, they would work if they're done correctly. If we ever came to that point where we got to see something like that, I'd enjoy it, but I'm not going to be banging the drum to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if done well, I mean, you can say that about literally anything.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm much in your, I would much rather see, Riddler, Mr. Freeze, even Black Mask. Like, I'm even keen to see Two-Face again. I still don't. This might piss some people off. Actually, I still don't feel that we've had a really good, I won't say really good Two-Face on the big screen, because obviously Aaron Eckhart in The Dark Knight was fantastic, but I want to see Two-Face done well for an entire film. Mm-hmm. Not just sort of the third act. Scarface is definitely not someone who I'd like to see brought to live action. There's a lot of characters I'd like to see given justice before we ever got to a Scarface. But hey, if we ever get to a world where we see a bunch of movies in a series where all the villains are done well to the point where we can get to a Scarface, bring it on. That's kind of the dream, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, for you Scarface fans out there, good on you. Sorry, I'm not a fan. Doesn't mean I don't love you guys any less. All right, so that's it for the emails, but I have a couple voicemails. So let's check the old Holy BatCast voicemail box.
Hey guys, I was listening to your Death of Superman review, and I was listening to the voicemails as well, and I just wanted to address one that you guys got, and some of the things that they're sick and tired of hearing all of these different projects announced. But when you think about it, when this extended universe first started, there was a plan, because Zack had this plan with his Justice League movies, and it was all going to build towards something. And David Ayer said at the Comic-Con, it's going to be that us fans will be interested to see how all these movies interconnect. But they've obviously scrapped all of those plans, and now I think they're just going with the flow, and they're making the movies that they want to make, and they're becoming, once again, a director-driven studio, hopefully. And then, as many outlets have said before, they're just going to cross over if they feel the need to or if they want to. But right now, they're just going to make a movie that they want to make, and they're going to have them be in the same universe, but not necessarily cross over with anyone unless they want to. So that way the door is always open. And I, for one, don't have a problem with that because it differentiates them from anyone else. And as long as the movies are good, so what? So I just wanted to throw that in there and say that it's okay that all these different projects are being announced. But anyway, thank you guys for always making great episodes, and it's such a pleasure to listen to every week. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for the message. You did not leave your name. I don't know who I'm talking to, but thank you. Yeah, I mean, I hear your point. Absolutely, is that when they started and they gave the keys to Zack Snyder, there was a plan, and then plans changed, and then plans continued to change, and they're still changing. So I think that's just it, is the frustration of Warner Brothers being so reactionary to the way each movie was embraced or not embraced, and instead of sticking to a plan, and they just keep trying to course correct, and I think that can be frustrating for the fans. So hopefully they're on more stable ground now. I do feel like Walter Hamada is whipping stuff into shape, which is great. It feels like they're in a better place right now and knowing what they're going to do. And as you say, let the filmmakers make their films and stop getting their fingers in the pie, and hopefully that'll work out better for all of us. Brendan, any thoughts on this?
Not really. I co-sign everything you said, really. I can't add anything to it.
All right, cool. And if you're leaving a voicemail, just tell me your name, unless you're mysterious and you don't want us to know who you are. Anyway, we got one more voicemail. Here we go.
Hey, Andy and Jamie. This is Matt Malecki. I'm just calling because you had an email a couple of weeks ago suggesting you guys cover the Batman Superman World's Finest animated movie aired in continuity with the Batman and Superman animated series, and I just wanted to second that notion. I would love you guys to cover that as its own episode on the show. That was one of the first times in my life I ever saw Batman and Superman team up, and because of that, I fell in love with all of the other characters from the DC universe, and that World's Finest 3-part episode made me want to see Batman and Superman in live action on screen together. It aired in 1997 during the run of the Batman adventures that you guys are currently covering on the show. So it's in that same time frame of what you guys are doing anyway. So again, I just wanted to second that notion. I would love for you guys to cover that. I think it's a great TV movie, and I can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on that. As always, keep up with the great work, and love the show. Bye.
All right, thank you, Matt. Good to hear from you, man. And absolutely, in fact, a little peek behind the curtain. That was one of Brendan's other suggestions to do this week, was to finally do the Batman Superman movie. But I feel too guilty doing it without Jamie.
Yeah, it would be
like
good. That would be a good one to get the three of us on.
Yeah, I feel like we need to do all that one together. But so it is absolutely on the list. We will absolutely review that at some point. So fret not. It will be coming as long as I don't die.
Who was that? Who sent in that voicemail? Matthew
Malecki?
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't do anything on Facebook.
No, never heard of the guy.
Anyway,
that's like a made up. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, it's someone prank calling us. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, as always, for your emails and your voicemails. If you've got an email you'd like to send to us, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com, or you can give us a call and leave a voicemail at 323-366-9246. And as always, try to keep those voicemails to about a minute, and please tell us your name, 323-366-9246. But that is where we're going to wrap up this episode of Holy BatCast. Brendan, good to have you back, my friend.
It's been a pleasure. We haven't recorded together post-Comic-Con, so it's been a little while.
Oh my gosh, I guess you're right.
Yeah, the last one we did together was the week before Comic-Con.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our lives were so different back then.
They were. But no, look, thanks for having me, and I guess we haven't spoiled anything. I'm going to be back next week, so.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, if I play my cards
We'll
right. See how this episode rates.
Yeah, we'll see if people like it. I'm not afraid to fire your ass.
Yeah. Oh, I need this paycheck, man. Come on.
I know. Anyway, no, it's always a pleasure having you back. Where can the folks at home keep up with you?
You can find me on Twitter at Loey007. You can follow my podcast at Nightlight Podbean. Sorry, because I got my website and my Twitter mixed up there. Hang on, it'd be at Nightlight Pod or thenightlight.podbean.com. Episodes in few and far between these days, but we had a new one last week, all about Bond and Mission Impossible, and I've got something planned in the next couple of weeks for a Batman Day special, which I might give you a little bit.
Ooh.
I'll give you a little bit more info on next week if I can get some get all the stars aligned and everything, because what I've got planned kind of comes back to Holy BatCast in a roundabout way. So hopefully I'll have some more info about that next week and let the listeners know when and where they can hear it.
Okay. Leave us all in suspense a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fine. All right, cool. So yes, go do that. And I told you where to follow me. I told you where to follow the show. So yeah, give Brendan a follow, and maybe Jamie if you feel like it. Bat Raider 3960.
That's the one.
I always forget. Anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for downloading the show and for joining us. Please do subscribe to the show, and please rate and review us on iTunes. That would be awesome. Please visit holybatcast.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast. Again, if you'd like to send us an email, you can do that at holybatcast@rf4rm.com, or you can leave a voicemail at 323-366-9246. So that'll do it for this one. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Holy BatCast is brought to you by real fans for real movies. Remember, the thoughts and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone, and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for.
Useless to tell you to leave.
I wouldn't miss this for anything.
Your funeral.
Already had one.